Okay, welcome back. This should be the last video for this module. We're looking at standard portion costs. The definition of standard portion cost is the cost to prepare one portion according to our standard recipe, pre-costed, with current cost. Okay, so a calculation of standard beverage costs. Remember how I said the book splits up food and beverage costs always separately, but they really are calculated with the same idea behind it. If we wanted to figure out our standard beverage cost percentage, we would look at the value of inventory behind the bar at the beginning of a trial period. So let's say the beginning of a weekend, or the beginning of a week, or the beginning of the night. So let's pretend we're looking at one server's shift at the bar. So we would look at the inventory behind the bar at the beginning of his shift. Then we would look at the value of issues to the bar during the trial period. So that would be things that were issued to the bar. Maybe he ran out of scotch. We got scotch from the back and we brought it up to the bar. That would be a value of issues to the bar during his shift. Then you would do value of inventory you would subtract that from the value of inventory behind the bar at the end of the trial period. So we're looking at what is his inventory at the end of the shift. And that would be our gross beverage cost. So basically we're just looking at the quantity that we started with. We add in anything we brought in that he needed, and then we subtract it from the amount of inventory at the end, and that gives us our gross beverage cost. We would add in the value of transfers to the bar during the trial period, the value of transfers from the bar during the trial period, and the cost of complimentary drinks. Remember, the complimentary drinks wouldn't it would affect our inventory, but it wouldn't affect our revenue. And that would give us our net beverage cost. If we want to know our standard beverage cost percentage, we take the net beverage costs and we divide the beverage revenue during the trial period. To express it as a percentage, we would multiply by 100. Point of sale systems and standard beverage costs. Point of sale systems help us figure out more accurately what our costs are, because sales are tracked electronically. Costs can also be calculated faster, and percents can be assessed quicker. Here is a practice problem. I would expect you to be able to complete this level of calculation. Some of the calculations in the book, I think they're very good exercises to go through, but they, like we talked about in class, they can be overwhelming because there's so many steps. I would not consider this problem to be too many steps. You need to be able to understand this chapter at this level. So please work your way through this and make sure that you can. This is a cream of chicken soup recipe, and we would need to determine the amount of ingredient needed to make 175 servings. So the recipe was designed to serve 50. That's the current yield. If we needed to make 50 servings, these are the ingredients we would need, the quantities. We need to convert the quantities. We're going to need to use, kind of figure out, like, well, do we want to do this all in quarts and cups, whatnot? Need to figure out a factor for the adjustment factor from the 50 to 175. Then we're going to figure out the amount, and then we're going to use common measures so that they would be expressed in a recipe. I'd like you to put this on pause and see if you can do this. And when you're done, you can resume play, and I will go on to the next slide. Make sure you're comfortable with it. Put it on pause, don't cheat. Okay, you better have tried some of this. If not, go back and try it. Converted quantities. This can be an area that you kind of have to find what works for you, because sometimes people will convert things differently. But in this case, this is an easy example here. 2.5 cups, we would do 2.5. We'd move everything into decimals and then bring it back to fractions later. Quarts and cups, you can find a conversion table in your book. The idea being we want to move this all into one unit, so we're going to make this all 10 cups. Remember, 4 quarts to a gallon, so we're going to convert this all to quarts. And then at the end we convert it back. This is where the mistakes are commonly made by students, is when they convert it here and then when they convert it back over here. What I really want to make sure you understand is how we got our factor. We took our current yield and our desired yield, and we created this 3.5 factor. So we're in essence taking 12 ounces, we're multiplying it by 3.5 so that we change the 50 servings to the 175 servings. So we might have started with needed 12 ounces for 50 servings, but for 175 servings we're going to need 2.62 pounds, or 2 pounds 10 ounces. So look at the margin, make sure you're good with it. If you cheated and didn't actually work your way through the rest of the problems, please put this on pause now and make sure you can convert your way through the rest of the problems without help, because this would be expected on the test. All right, I'll let you pause, rewind, do what you need to. If you don't understand something here, this is the time to email me so I can explain this in greater detail. All right, here's another practice problem. For the broccoli salad recipe below, determine the amount of each ingredient needed to make 225 servings. Again, we have our current yield. The recipe was designed to serve 100. We need to serve 225. So please take your time to work through this one and make sure that you can work through this as well. In the past, I had students do question in our textbook. I think it was question 5 or 10. Let's see if I can find it. It was question 10. Question 10 is a doozy, and people struggled with it, but it's the same idea. It's on page 180 in your textbook. Maybe take a couple of those ingredients and play around with it and make sure you can do it. I do have the solution to question 10 posted in Moodle, so that could be another way you can test your ability to understand this material. Okay, so put this on pause, finish this up, and then resume play for the answers. You better put it on pause. All right, there's your answers. So we looked at our factor. Our factor was taken with that current yield and desired yield. Simple division. Okay, here's our 13 pounds 8 ounces. We converted it into decimals. These didn't need to be converted. We converted this into a decimal. And then all we're doing is we're taking the 2 quarts times 2.25 equals 4.5 quarts. And then to try to express it as a common measure, if you had a recipe that wouldn't say 4.5 quarts, it would likely say 4 quarts, 1 pint. So we may have only needed 2 quarts of mayonnaise to make 100 servings, but now we're going to need 4 quarts and 1 pint to make 225 servings. Look through, make sure that at the very least you have the adjustment factor and some sort of, like, you shouldn't have had any trouble with the mayonnaise and the sugar because you didn't really have to change anything there. So you should have been able to get from here to there. You shouldn't have had any trouble with the vinegar. Familiarize yourself with common measures, though. That could be tricky on the test. I don't have too many, but there are some in the past that have been on the test for that. I am rewriting the test for you guys, so I don't have all the questions yet. But this would be expected knowledge. All right. I hope that helps. Please, 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 please email me or call me if this is losing you. Again, there are a lot of resources and little videos for chapters 1 through 5 throughout Moodle right now. Sometimes you'll see a little discrepancy because in the old version of the book, chapters 3 and chapter 5 were flipped. So some of the videos that you have in Moodle have been pre-recorded from other years. And so if you see anything popping up with 3 and 5 and it just doesn't seem to make sense to you, it might be because you're looking at an older video. Chapter 3 was menu, and this is obviously chapter 5. And the version 7 of the textbook, chapter 5 was menu, and chapter 3 was food and beverage standards. So listen to all the videos that I have. If anything isn't working, if a link isn't working, or a solution doesn't make sense, please contact me next week, and I will record another video for you next week. We do not meet next week on the 11th. The next class we meet on is February 25th. Don't forget to work on Project 1 as well. I will be grading those carefully. So if you have any questions about Project 1, don't wait until the last minute to ask. All right? Thank you. Bye.